Mammoth tank assembled. Sorry, guys, had to be done. Hey, guys, and welcome to another episode of Fantasy Friday with me, Commander Wolfman. Well, guys, talked about two figures that we now finished off. It's now time to talk about the next thing which I have finished and done, and has actually got a bit of history to it this time because I actually know this tank to like the back of my hand. Well, mostly anyway. Don't quote me on it, obviously. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I give you the Mammoth tank, a Command and Conquer super heavy vehicle that pounds and the crap out of everything that gets close to it. Yes, very dangerous vehicle indeed. So as I say, there is a bit of history to this tank, and ironically, it's probably history that some of you might not know. Now, if you do know your Command and Conquer series and you do know it to your heart, then obviously you know where this tank comes from, or at least I think you might know where it comes from. I've actually done some research, and it turns out this vehicle is a lot older than some people think it is. You see, the Mammoth tank, although is in the GDI army, there was another army this vehicle actually fights in, and some of you may or may not remember it. I guess I should take you back a little bit in the story because there's a little bit of, as I said, a little bit of history to cover with this. So let's talk a bit about it. First and foremost, Command and Conquer, for those who don't know, is a RTS real-time strategy game which was made back on the PC in 1996, maybe a bit earlier than that, but that's the time I got it. Reason why it's the time I got it then is because I had a PlayStation back then, and I had Doom 2000 on it of all things. So yeah, oh don't worry, the story gets better, trust me. So a year later, my mum gets a PC with Windows 95 onto it, and would you believe it, I also got Command and Conquer, Doom 2000, and a bunch of other strategy games that came out back in those days, and absolutely loved the hell out of them. The other game in question I'm talking about is from the same franchise, but in a different universe of the franchise. I'm talking about Command and Conquer Red Alert, which is part of the Red Alert franchise that some of you probably already know. If you don't, basically, the Red Alert franchise follows on from a what-if scenario. So, just to give you guys a bit of a what goes on with the game, the intro starts off with Albert Einstein going back into the 1930s, just prior to when Hitler was supposed to take power and become Chancellor of, obviously, Germany. Obviously, we all know the real story, but in this timeline, somehow he deals with him and takes him out of the picture completely, which you think, oh wow, that's not a bad idea. You know, Hitler's gone. That means there'll be no real big sufferings going on. Yeah, obviously Einstein didn't take into consideration about one other very big nasty problem in the room, did he? Yeah, you guys know what I'm talking about. Old Joseph Stalin himself, the man who made the Russian Soviets into what they were for that time period, and yeah, somebody you definitely didn't want to mess around with at the time, as we all know. Anyway, Joseph became the next big dictator for the planet, and he basically managed to build up a huge force, and he went to go and conquer Europe, and that's basically what goes on in this game. If you play as the Soviets, you know what I'm talking about. You obviously play as the Allies, which consists of all of the friendly nations, you know, Germany, France, England, America, yada, yada, yada. I'll spare you the details, guys, but yeah, you've got a good side and a bad side, so this sort of thing going on. Anyway, the story goes, so in the first game of Command and Conquer Red Alert, the Soviet Union have got lots of super heavy vehicles, double-barreled tanks, medium tanks, you know, all sorts of very nasty weaponry. Well, the Allies have good weapons in numbers, but they don't have the sufficient firepower. Anyway, so the story goes from what I've been told. This tank, the Mammoth tank, was originally going to be a fully automated battle vehicle, which was supposed to be used to deal with lots and lots of fortifications and heavily armed Allied forces. Unfortunately, the automated versions tended to, how do I put this, basically kill everything in sight. So the project was scrapped, and then later on they developed the Apocalypse tank, which was fully manned. And obviously the Apocalypse tank became the main backbone for the Soviet Union during the whole of the games. Absolutely adore the Apocalypse tank, and just so you guys know, I plan to get something very special in the foreseeable future, so keep an eye out for that. because once I got it, we definitely will be talking about it. Anyway, so as you guys know, I do a lot of model building and bits and pieces. I was looking for some Command and Conquer stuff online to do with 3D model prints, and I have found a bunch of things. But I thought to myself, where do I start with this? And I thought, let's start with the main vehicle that I fell in love with back in the very first game, and absolutely adored it to this day, so to speak. And that's where things go from there. Don't know how the Mammoth tank fell into GDI hands, but as far as I know, GDI were developing this thing way back in the First Siberian War, and obviously it's a powerhouse of a vehicle. Very expensive, can be slow, but it does deal with pretty much anything on the battlefield that you throw at it. So if you do run into one of these things, make sure you've got a sufficient force to deal with it, because when this thing starts taking on vehicles, it blows them away. Anyway, so David, who I've told you guys about before, is the guy who's managed to 3D print this thing for me. I will leave a description of the website in question below in the channel description, guys. I'll try to this time. I do apologise, it didn't last time round. But basically, all these 3D model projects, pretty much all of them that I will be talking about, have come from this one website called 3D Cult, I think it's called. Anyway, you type in something and it comes up generally what you're looking for. And this was the first thing that I laid my eyes on. And it's also the first thing I wanted. So, detail-wise, it's exactly as I imagined it. It's actually a little bit more detailed to what it actually looks like in the original game back in the on the PlayStation, on the PC back then. But I love it. I love the up-detailed and obviously the look of the thing. It just looks really, really impressive. I can tell it's a Mammoth tank. You can tell it's a Mammoth tank. And that's the major thing to it really as a whole, eh? So let's talk a bit about the method of painting and go from there. So originally I was going to do my own sort of paint job to this tank, guys, and go from there with it. But I thought to myself, no, you know what, I want to pay homage to GDI as a whole, because obviously it's a GDI vehicle. I was originally going to do it in a Soviet era sort of thing, but I didn't have the right sort of red, so I'm leaving that as it is for that. So I thought, okay, let's look up online, see what colours I can use as a GDI yellow. And at first I thought maybe I could use a desert yellow, but that didn't work as well as possible, so I left that one behind. Then I thought, okay, I could use another yellow. And there was a particular yellow that I found in my collection, which definitely did the job for me. And that is this yellow right here. So believe it or not, as you guys can probably tell, Baz, it's not the same colour I used before. Bear with me because there's a little bit of science experimenting that went on into this. So I used that yellow as the base, and then I used a couple of drops of black, and I kept on adding and adding until I got to this particular colour that we're looking at here. And that's the end result of my labour there for that sort of thing. Obviously a null oil wash to finish it off, and that brings it all the lovely details that this model comes with. Now as for the other colours and components, you have to excuse the fur there, guys, as you can tell I've been working on Luna, more on that later. I used some various different colours for the mud and bits. Obviously I used a tactical brown for the muds. As you can see, it's got bits of sand and dirt all inside it, so it gives it a very well used look. So I used that. I used a bit of null oil wash, a bit of track wash, and that basically brings out the details of the tracks. Originally they were actually a gunmetal and shining silver look to them. The guns themselves are definitely a gunmetal mixed in with shining silver and a tad bit of black to give them a nice sheen and look to them. Used some tactical red on the missile launchers. I used some gunmetal on the back of the missile launchers. I added a couple of bits. So I've got this little turret here, which I found in the collection. I think it's from HMS. I'm pretty sure it's come out of HMS Montreux's model kit. But I used that, and I also used a little vent here from some spare parts I had from some old Warhammer kits, just to give it a little extra detail to it, really. There. The decals themselves are all Warhammer model decals, guys. I got these from 2 Lehman Russ model kits. The numbers from 2 other various model kits. There's a couple of black lines on there just to add some detail and looks to it all, so it just brings out all the lovely features. Originally I wasn't going to give this tank a number, but I decided to use 152 because I like the size of that gun, I mean, a 152mm is basically 6 inches. I'm pretty sure the Mammoth tank, in its original configuration, had more than 6 inches, something like 120, maybe 190mm sort of guns. It's a double-barreled turret, so it's a beast of a vehicle, obviously. Just in case you guys are wondering what configuration this is, I'm pretty sure this is the railgun configuration that you can get in Command and Conquer 3. So, yeah, this thing does fire railguns, and my god, does it hurt. I'm just a beast of a tank. Overall, guys, I'm very happy with how she's come out. She's going to sit fantastically with the rest of the fantasy vehicles and things which are slowly starting to come along on the shelf. And we'll have more to show you as we go on with things. But for now, guys, that's it for the Mammoth tank. Stand by next week because we'll be talking about the last of my projects. There will also be an update next week as well, and that is my Lehman Baz. Wait a minute, Baz, you mean Lehman Russ, right? That's what you're working on? I'll explain more in that video. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Have a nice week and have a nice weekend. Look after yourselves out there and take care. Ta-ta for now.